Good evening. I'm Anuj Mehrotra. I am the Dean at the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business, and I am delighted to welcome you all to this episode of Tech Talks Business. Perhaps actually I should say Tech Talks Sustainable Business today, as this is a launch event for Georgia Tech's exciting Sustainable Development Goals Action and Awareness Week, and I invite you to explore many events that are planned across campus for that. And it is my distinct pleasure here to introduce our guest today, Laurel Hurd, President and CEO of Interface Incorporated.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
Great. Well, Scheller College has a special connection to Interface, as Scheller hosts the Ray C. Anderson Center for Sustainable Business, named after Interface's founder, CEO, and chairman, the legendary sustainable business provider and Georgia Tech alum, Ray C. Anderson. Thank you again, Laurel, for joining me here today. And let's jump right in. I like to start with a question about where did you grow up and what was your path all the way to becoming president and CEO of Interface?
Yeah, I'd love to share. So I grew up in Ohio. I'm a Midwestern girl, born and raised in Ohio. My dad was a hardware salesman, so vacations looked like traveling in the car to a hardware show and helping dad set up the booth. And then I started in sales very young, selling pliers and things to the hardware community. So that was kind of my growing up. Let's see. So I grew up in sales. That was part of me from day one. And then I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. So again, in the Midwest. Cradle of Coaches, exactly. And then my first job out of school, I worked for Dirt Devil Vacuum Cleaners, an old consumer products company. And I learned so much from that job. I started and was managing the west coast of the country. I had no idea what I was doing. And my manager, I asked him, I said, hey, can I have a job description? Like, I want to do a good job, so can I get a job description? And he looks at me, he's like, job description? You want a job description? And he went and picked up everything that was on one person's desk and dumped it on my desk. And he says, there's your job description. And then he turned around and he said to me on his way out, he said, Laurel, there's one thing I want to tell you. There's not a single decision that you can make that's going to put this company out of business. And he walked away. And so my lesson from that's probably the best lesson I ever got, which was number one, don't worry about a job description. Do whatever it takes to get the job done and do right for the company. And then go make decisions. So that was like my profound moment early on in my career. And from there, I grew up in sales. I was in consumer products for years, in innovation and marketing and brand building across some great brands like Sharpie and Papermate and Graco and Calphalon and just great household names. When an opportunity for Interface came forth a couple years ago, I was just like, man, this is an incredible company with such a great foundation and heritage. And I took the leap and joined Interface just a couple of years ago. So
that's a great story, and I have used all the products that you were talking about. So yeah, you can. and if you still have samples, I'm happy to take some of them. But really, from consumer goods sales all the way to a global flooring company, right, and modular flooring, that's a big change. How was that transition like?
It's been fantastic, I will say. So many of the foundations in business are the same, and when you transition industries, you pull from what's the same and you lean into what's different. And so great brands, incredible innovation, really people and leadership are all the same, and general business principles the same. Our selling system is very different, B2C rather than B2B, so understanding who our customer is, direct selling organization, and a global footprint are certain areas that I've leaned into.
So you mean to say I can be Dean of Engineering and Computer Science as well?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. In that case, beware all my colleagues there. So, but tell us a little bit about Interface. Tell us about where you are located, what the products are, and what's the revenue?
Yeah. So Interface, we are a $1.3 billion public company, commercial flooring, based here in Atlanta in Midtown, and really a global company. So we have manufacturing operations in LaGrange, Georgia, in the Netherlands, in Germany, Shanghai, outside of Shanghai, and over in Australia. So a real global footprint. And Interface is an incredible company, and we've got some of our founders' relatives here in the room today, which is such a gift. I mean, Ray Anderson, as you said, was the founder of our company. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, which is incredible. And Ray Anderson brought really modular flooring to the US and really transitioned commercial flooring as we know it today to be carpet tiles, right? Carpet tiles, commercial flooring, an incredible company. And then about 30 years ago, this will be his 30th year, when Ray had what he would call his spear in the chest moment, where a customer came to him and said, this is great, Ray, I love your carpet, but what are you doing for the environment? And what I love about Interface is it's an incredibly customer-centric organization. We put the customer at the center of whatever we do. So when a customer asks a question to Ray, who again, I've never met Ray, but have learned a lot about him and his beliefs, he said, man, we got to figure this out. If customers are asking, what are we doing for the environment? And he happened to read The Ecology of Commerce, Paul Hawkins' book, back in literally 30 years ago. And he came forth and said, oh my gosh, like he had the spear in the chest moment that said, I need to figure out, I'm doing things that are not good for the planet. My company, while successful and profitable and growing, is not doing right by the planet, and really had an edict to transform our company to do both, to do right for the planet and become a truly restorative enterprise is our ambition, while also being a successful, profitable, for-profit company. And it's really that beauty that Ray set out on. It's not an or, it's an and, right? Mm-hmm. How do we be profitable and successful, but also do good for the world? And what he's done and the legacy we push forward as a company today is still really at the heart of what we do.
So you have become leaders in sustainability in many eyes right now. And in fact, last week, I was talking to Phil Langford, the trustee for the foundation, Ray C. Anderson Foundation, as well as John Lanier. Yeah. And we were having a great conversation where there was mention of the idea of how Ray C. Anderson believed in circular economy. Yeah. And in trying to think about supply and demand. And I remember Phil asking this question that, in the big scheme of things, the supply and demand need to be matched, mm-hmm. and the supply is depleting. Mm-hmm. So sustainability becomes a big. Right. So I want to ask you, from your set, how did Ray C. Anderson? I mean, how did Interface become a leader in sustainability, and what are some of the other companies? Which are some of the other companies which are getting it right, mm-hmm. and perhaps where are they falling short?
So I think how Interface became a leader is really, as you said, thinking about sustainability in all aspects, from the very beginning of waste and wasting less to circularity, and how do we have waste from one become food for another. So we've created the first ever carbon negative carpet tile, which means it's better for the planet when we make it than when we don't. I mean, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible, and what it does is there's a lot of art and science within that. But we take back recycled carpet and we chop it up and it becomes an ingredient into our carpet tile of the future. So that's that circularity in action, mm-hmm.
which
is really incredible. And I think companies, what I love about Interface, we're such a leader. And the goal, Ray always said early on, we're just a small company. We're 1.3 billion in revenue. We can't save the planet on our own. But what we can do is be a beacon of hope and show that we're not a not-for-profit company. We can actually do good for the world, be a profitable enterprise, and show others that it can be done. So the fact that others are coming along, I mean, the flooring industry is leaps and bounds from where it was so long ago, but there's a lot more to do. The other thing I'd say is we measure everything. We're very, and some of the folks in the room here do a lot of that measuring to make sure we're very authentic and share exactly what we do. And then we publish everything that we do. So it's out there and we can share our practices and help others to come on the journey with us.
So you mentioned, this is great, but I want to see what some of the other companies may be getting wrong, or perhaps I talk to my daughters and they are willing to pay double the price for a bottle of water which is sustainability, mm-hmm. Produced with those ideas in mind for the environment. So there is hope in the younger generation, which is really looking forward to it. Are you seeing a shift in the workforce mm-hmm. in companies like yours where the younger folks are getting more attracted to come?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. You know, I say so often, companies are often looking for their purpose. The younger generation, they want to work for a company that has a purpose. And I've been involved in companies where you're sort of searching for that purpose. What is it? Why do we exist? And Interface is one that has such an authentic purpose. And there's so many folks who join our company because they care and they want to make a difference. And it's not just what you do, but it's how you do it, and how you do it in a way that feels like you're giving back to the community and making the world a better place. I think, you know, people really do care. The built environment is one of the biggest contributors to the carbon challenge that we have. Mm-hmm. And so making a difference, you know, people never, when Ray set out on this journey, people didn't really care about carbon. Nobody was talking about it. And people care a lot more about carbon than they have in the past. So it's helping that journey.
So let me ask you a different question. I think here, obviously, you are committed to it. This is part of your mission, and mm-hmm. you are making great progress mm-hmm. in this dimension. Then I look at what is happening today with regard to artificial intelligence, mm-hmm. and there are all kinds of red flags where people are talking about there should be more regulation, there should be more, guardrails for how AI is going to be destroying the world at times, right? And people are realizing, because it's very fast-paced, right, that it is happening. Now, when you start looking at the climate mm-hmm. and you start looking at the Earth, it is slow-paced, but it's equally, or maybe even more so, important to have those guardrails. What are your thoughts on the policies and the guardrails that should be around industries to actually contribute towards sustainability?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's somewhat controversial, right? Like regulation, and people get anxious over that because what does that mean? Our philosophy is, I sort of say bring it on. Like, we're ready for it from a regulation perspective. If it will help clarity and make sure that we're all looking at it the same way and transparency, then I think it's great. I think we're ahead of the curve from that perspective because we've been tracking everything for so long. I think it can only help us.
So let me ask you then about you are a global company, you're operating in so many different countries, and the regulations, et cetera, are probably going to be different across different parts of the world. So how do you, as a global company, maintain that mission in each part of the world that you're operating in?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? Even state by state sometimes.
But you're a CEO, so
it's different. I think our mission is steadfast, and our ambition is to be a restorative enterprise by 2040, and actually restore, not only do no harm, but do good for the planet. And our science-based target initiative, which is global and it's very trackable, our goal is to get halfway there by 2030, and we've already made such great progress. So when we look at our global footprint, yes, the regulations are different here or there, but we'll just go for the furthest, the most aggressive, and then we'll track that globally. So we may not have to, maybe the US will be a little less stringent than Europe, but we'll just look at it as a global enterprise and track it accordingly. And really what we care most about is the progress that we're making.
So you mentioned this 2040 goal, and you're more than halfway there is what you're suggesting here, if I'm understanding it correctly. Can you tell us what kind of innovations will be necessary to really get there? I mean, it seems like a very ambitious goal to get to that point of being carbon negative.
For sure. Yeah. Look, I think the biggest proof point we have is we were able to come up with the first ever carbon negative carpet tile. If we can make a carpet tile carbon negative, it's about scaling, right? And how we can do that in a more cost-effective way over time. And then it's about really innovation, as you're saying, and suggesting. And there's a lot happening with biomaterials, using carbon as an ingredient, and thinking about also waste from one is food for another. And our scientists around the world are really looking at how that innovation is going to come to be that will be not only good for our customers, but also good for the planet and good for business.
So you mentioned about being mission-driven, and then the mission and the business side of it, that you're managing both. In fact, last week I was in Professor Bill Todd's class, and he was talking about in the context of healthcare, where there's a very clear mission, when you can certainly commit to saving everybody on Earth and curing them and whatnot. But there is then the issue of being a business and the margin. So given that you're a mission-driven company, how do you draw that line between mission and margin?
It's a great question, and I think it's there's tension in that, right? There's tension in will this be more profitable or more sustainable? And I think what we really try to look at, we talk about design a lot at our company. We're a design-driven company, but we look at all of these things are design challenges, and how we think about the and of more often than not, a more sustainable solution is also more profitable. whether customers are willing to pay for more or whether there's less waste or more cost-effective ingredients. So we keep going after the design challenge until we find something that is an and in that.
Oh, that's a great way of putting it, I think. And so let me ask you indifferently, and in terms of decision making, what are the factors that you're always keeping in mind? Like, for example, if somebody were to ask me about decision making, I would say in a university we always want to make sure that we are putting student interest first and foremost in our mind, and that's what drives. So what is the big decision? How do you, when there are complex decisions to make in there, what is your decision making going to be using as factors?
So at the center of everything is the customer, and we make sure that our customers are at the center of everything we do. Because we have to make sure that we're a sustainable, profitable enterprise for the long term. So the customers are really at the heart of that. And the good news is our customers are looking for more sustainable solutions. So there's a marriage there, and we truly believe we can grow our business because our customers care more from a sustainability perspective than they ever have before.
So, at some point, I think I've heard you say, or in one of the talks that I have listened to, or somebody else talk about interface, where sustainability is kind of built into the fabric of everything that you do.
Yeah.
So it has to be reflected in the work culture. So
Yes.
what is that culture like, and how do you create and nurture that culture?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you join a company, I joined from the outside, right? And you read everything you can about the company and learn a lot about its heritage and its history. But until you get there, you don't really know what it's going to feel like. And what I've said is when you come into Interface, you realize that sustainability it's in the bones of the business. It's in everything we do. It's in innovation and marketing and manufacturing, and it's all around the world too. So it's a core part of what we do. It's not a function, it's not a team, it's really in the fabric of how we think. And our job is to foster that and to make sure that we continue to drive that forward. We created a sustainability council, which is bringing advocates from around the world together, and we meet. I chair it with my lead of sustainability and innovation, and Liz is on the team, and several others. And we meet every other month, and we talk about issues out there that we want to make progress on. So we'll talk about whether it's carbon offsets and how do we think about that and what do we do about that. Do a lot of time talking, people who are working on sustainability every day, but in different functions around the world, and we pull together. So we make sure that we continue to push that forth every day.
Great. So I'm going to take some questions from the audience. I think we are doing that. So if you just want to raise your hand, and if the mic reaches you, then I will know to look at you and try and. But I have many questions myself. So you don't have to ask those questions. But really, you have the time that I've spent talking to you. There is like a sense of that energy and a purpose, a driven thing. Yeah. So tell me, what as CEO are you most proud of?
I'm so proud that I'd say this. There's an accountability. We have such an incredible founder story, Ray Anderson, who attended Georgia Tech, and we've got such a strong connection still. There's so many incredible folks that we have at our company now who came to Georgia Tech. What I have first of all is a responsibility to move that forward and to keep bringing forward the vision that Ray had. What I'm most proud of is we do it every day. We do it every single day. The people at Interface around the world are thinking about the mission that Ray set out for. And his mission is an and. It's not just do good for the world. He was a ferocious competitor who loved to win in the market. And it's that competitive spirit with the customer at the center and doing right for the world. That is through and through what we do every day. And I'm really, really proud.
That's a great answer, by the way. I love it. So I have not seen any hands yet. Oh, there is one hand there. So Professor Kohli is going to be asking.
Yeah, hi. I'm Ajay Kohli, one of the faculty members at Scheller. Very interesting comments. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. So this goes back to the sort of tension between margins and mission, as you put it. So, and you made the point that many customers care about the environment and are willing to pay for it. But by the same token, there are a whole bunch of customers who are not willing to pay more and who don't care about the environment. So that's one. And the second is short-term, long-term. Yeah, in the long run, you might make both profits as well as meet the sustainability sort of objectives. But in the short run, you got shareholders who keep looking at you every
I
quarter.
love it.
So how do you deal
How do you
with
do
these
it?
two tensions? How do you think about the and rather than the or?
For the record, remember,
love
this is a
it.
tougher question than I was asking you. Just to let you know.
Yeah, I know who asked what. I got it. So the first one is really, it's really true. Some customers really care about their carbon impact, and some don't. I wish they all did. When a customer cares, we win all day long, but not all of them do. So you know what? We need to make great carpet that looks beautiful, and other flooring. I keep saying carpet. We have other flooring as well. Great flooring products that look beautiful, that are costed well, that are high quality every single day. And you know what? When customers care about sustainability, great, we'll win that argument. We have to win it without too. And so we need to be great at what we do, the core of what we do. And then we also need to make sure we teach our customers. Sometimes they don't care because they don't know. And we can teach them that they're making everybody wants to make good choices, right? So we can teach them, hey, in addition to giving you a great product, a great value, but that's going to be high quality, you're also making a great choice for the environment. So there's education in there. And then short-term, long-term, man, that's a real tension also all day long. And I think at the end, we put our customers in the center. We focus on growth and making sure that we're satisfying our customers. And when we look at investments, especially in the long term, I think about our science-based target roadmap, which is an innovation roadmap. They're intertwined. So the investments that we're making in our future, we believe, are going to both help us grow and increase profits and be good for the environment, and making sure that we keep those things equally weighted and not just something that's great for the environment that our customers don't want. We can't make those trade-offs. We have to make sure that the customers want what we create, or we're not going to get to our ambition. That makes sense.
Great. I think there's another question from Professor. Oh, back there first. Sorry, we'll get to you after that.
Hello, Sean Roy, nice to see you again. I'm the director of the Candida building, which is our living building here at Georgia Tech.
Love it.
So when we talk about circularity, it's also on the customer then to send the carpet towel back. What is the participation amount in that program, and how can you get it higher?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not easy. It sounds easy, right? Hey, we'll take it back and we can make it an ingredient. It's really hard. If you think about a building's going through renovation, and we take back our own carpet because then we know what it's created with and we know it can be an ingredient. But there are a lot of steps to that. The building owner or the people doing the renovation have to know, oh, this is Interface's carpet, so I can send it back to you. There's an expense to that associated with getting it back. It's the single hardest part of the circularity story, is getting the product back from the customer. I wish our participation were higher. It's low. It's increasing a bit, but it's hard. And that's, I think, something we use that as an ingredient, right? So we want to continue to find that flow. But it's a challenge for sure. And that's true. I think if we think more broadly and think about connectivity with others, some of those solutions I think are going to have to come more broadly and Europe will lead, because the regulation in Europe around circularity is increasing more, where there will be a penalty if you don't have an end-of-life solution. And when that penalty becomes big enough, customers will care about paying to send it back. The math will work eventually. So I think that will help. That'll honestly help drive it more. It's a great question,
I know
though.
Professor Todd Hayer
Yes.
has a question as well.
Thank you for taking my question, Bill Todd. I am 71. That's not my age, that's my degree. My age is 75. But anyway, I'm really interested in your advice about how to move beyond recycling. Now, recycling is at the core of Ray's epiphany, Anu Ray.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. It's a good place to start. But my industry, healthcare,
Yeah.
is the most unsustainable industry in the world, the U.S. version of it. We keep putting more money in and getting less out. Now, what business can survive doing that? So that's why I'm a member of the Serve, Learn, Sustain initiative. I'd love to be somehow helpful in the Ray Anderson Center. But we can't keep doing this. It's going to collapse. We can't afford high quality and high cost. I mean, you couldn't either.
Right.
So what do we do as a national dialogue to move beyond recycling? Recycling is step one, it seems to me. The rest of it is this, what you epitomize, it's in your DNA, is the whole life cycle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it comes down to innovation, where starting with what the customer wants, and there's so many more. I mean, there's a lot more happening in biomaterial, bio-based materials. There's a lot happening with carbon and how you can use that as an ingredient. I think as we think more about how you can innovate so that what we bring forth to the customers and consumers is more sustainable by nature, so that it's not a take something back and recycle it, but give them something that is way more sustainable to begin with, if that makes sense. It's starting with the answer and pushing it out. I think it's going to be hard to, whether it's consumers or customers, it's hard to make them care enough to create on their own.
So am I hearing you right that sustainability is the outcome? The real goal is success
Yeah,
for anybody.
yeah, I think I love that.
All right. So
I love it.
I think he was not
Yeah.
on the mic, but he was mentioning that it looks like sustainability is the outcome, but the real goal is success, and I think
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
that's the. So yesterday I was at an executive MBA alumni plus current students.
Yeah.
This is held annually by one of our executive MBA or MBA alums. She holds it at her house for the women in the program.
Yeah.
And when I was asking them, they said they would want to come here, but they just couldn't make it today at 4 o'clock. But they sent you this question, so I'm going to ask you one
Okay.
question.
All right.
And that is, some of them are aspiring CEOs.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to ask you, in terms of being an aspiring CEO, when you come into a new company and you are going in there, how do you go about building trust?
Yeah.
And how do you build around, an atmosphere where people learn to really believe you and your mission?
Yeah, I love it. Like anything, I think it's authenticity. More than anything, it's coming in, being yourself. And I think as a leader, and I'll say as a woman leader, sometimes in a CEO role, you're expected to act a certain way or be a certain way, or you think you are. And what I've found in my whole career is I just got to be me. And the more I am authentic and very kind of approachable, curious, like crazy, ask a bunch of questions. They also, you come in as a new CEO and everyone thinks you have the answers, right? And you walk in and everyone stares at you for the answer. The answer's not here. I can draw it out of you, but it's really listening and being curious and making sure that every voice in the room is heard, and that obviously it's being a good listener, but listening with the intent of being influenced, not the intent of how you're going to answer next, which I think is often you're thinking about what's next. And making sure that's what builds trust, is just being a good listener, being authentic, showing you don't have all the answers, and drawing from all the great expertise in the room.
So that's a great answer, but let me ask you a follow-up question on
Yes.
that. Oftentimes you hear people talk about leadership, right? And they talk about leadership by actually setting an example. So
Yeah.
that means the CEO is working very hard all day long on everything. On the other hand, some CEOs I have talked to say that the successful CEO is one who basically sits down and has nothing to do because they have delegated a wonderful team all
That
of the work.
sounds lovely.
So the question is, which extreme do you think is the right extreme to be in, or where is that right balance
Oh, it's
between
hard to
delegating
know.
and not doing it yourself and leaving yourself time to strategize and think, or setting an example by actually being there and being involved with everything that's going on?
It's a great question, right? And like anything, I think there are times and
I blame the
places for
students
that.
for it. I didn't
You
come
had
up with
nothing
this
to do.
question.
You got a good out there. I think like anything, it matters when and what topics. You sort of hear that what's going through my mind is, you should do what only you can uniquely do, where you can add value and know when to get out of the way. I don't think, it's not about how much you work or how hard you work, but making sure you know where you're contributing and where you're getting in the way. And oftentimes, no matter what, as leaders, whatever leader you are, if you're in the room, sometimes people will defer to you, or people will not actually do the work that's needed to do. I'm on in between the two. I'll roll up my sleeves. If there's a problem that needs to be solved, you got to be in the trenches, right? You don't need to do all the work, but you got to show that you're in the trenches with the team. At the same time, you need to pull yourself out of it and get out of the way. Once everybody's on the right track, get out of the way so they can go make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I've been following the idea of just getting out of the way and,
Yeah.
and letting things happen, not messing it up. But I'll try to help by getting into the trenches as well. So let me ask you a couple more questions. I know
Okay.
we're running out of time, but
Yep.
one question that comes to mind for me, I'm always interested in knowing is when I'm talking to folks and CEOs, et cetera, they're always talking about get your students prepared to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And it's easier said than done sometimes. But what does entrepreneurial spirit in your company means?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things in that. One, it goes back a little bit to the job description. Don't stay so focused in what you're doing. You know, the folks who are most successful in our company or in any company, they just want to make the business better. It's not about them. It's not about their promotion or their career or what they're doing. It's about, I want to make the business better. And that means jumping in sometimes outside of your boundaries or your role or your job description and just getting in there to figure out how can I help. And that mindset is an entrepreneurial mindset. It's as if you were a business owner and you want to say, man, how do I make this business better? Those folks in the room, you notice them as a leader and you see all sorts of people in the room, you can tell when someone's in there for them or they're in there because they want to make the business better. And man, that is the entrepreneurial spirit. I just want to make the business better. How can I help?
What a great answer. Thank you for that. So let me ask you one final question, and that is really your advice for our students who want to make a positive impact in the world. What would your advice be? What should they be working on? What are the skill sets that they should be gaining while they're at Georgia Tech in order for them to be able to do that?
You know, soak it up, right? This is such an incredible university with so many resources and so many connections. My first response to that is just soak it up. Because man, there's so much opportunity here and so much connectivity, and grab all of it and don't be afraid to grab all of it. And then also I'd say follow your heart, and that'll take you 1,000 different places, right? But where you're good at and where you can add value, but it's got to feel right too. And it's not just about it's not just about a title and a career track. It's about making a difference in the world and making sure that you feel like you're really contributing.
Well, thank you, Laurel, for such a great
Thank you,
conversation.
sir.
Enjoyed it very
Yes,
much.
wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you also all for joining us today. I'd like to invite you to, of course, join other Sustainability Showcase and SDG Week events in the coming days here. But I'd also like you to invite to the next Tech Talks Business episode. In this series, we will have Paul Brown, who is the CEO of Inspire Brands and a Scheller alum, and he will be here on April 3rd. So I hope to see you then. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.